Hey y'all, welcome to Cooking with Miss Holt. I'm a former high school home ec teacher and I wrote a cookbook to benefit high school scholarships, and we're going to be cooking something from that today. It's called Cooking for a Cause, and we're making a cake in there called a lemon sheet cake, a lemon buttermilk sheet cake. And so we love everything lemon at my house. It's probably my favorite flavor of desserts. And especially in the summertime, it's just really refreshing. And this is made in a 9x13 pan. You don't have to make any layers. It's really easy. You can make it to take to a potluck or church suppers or a family reunion, and it's easy to cut. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me turn you down here so you can see what's in my bowl. So right here, I have a 1.5 cups of granulated sugar, and I have 1.5 sticks of unsalted butter. So let me go ahead and cream that, and then we'll come back and we'll go to the next thing. Okay, that's what it should look like when you get it all creamed up. And now we're gonna put in our eggs. This is 3 eggs and 1 egg yolk. So let me just put this in here. Oh, and these are at room temperature, by the way. And this cake calls for buttermilk and eggs, and both of those need to be at room temperature. And that's pretty much the case for every cake I can think of that you would make. They always need to be room temperature. So let me get this beat up real quick. Okay, that's done. And I don't know if you can see, I'm gonna kind of hold it so you can see it. You see there's waves in there. So when you get it thick and creamy like it should be, there'll be little waves in it right there. Okay, now we're going to add 3/4 cup of room temperature buttermilk and a teaspoon of vanilla. And I already just mixed in the vanilla with my buttermilk there. And then this is 1/4 cup of fresh lemon juice. And I would have that room temperature already. The thing is, you don't want your cold ingredients to solidify the butter that you had to wait on to become room temperature so long. So let me beat this up really quick. You want to start this on low because all this liquid will splatter out of your bowl as well. And it'll look like it's kind of not coming together for a second, but it will. It'll be all right. Okay, and it'll look like it may be like separating a little bit for a second, but that'll be okay. It'll come out all right in the end. Okay, and in here we're using cake flour today. We're using Swan's Down cake flour. This is 2.5 cups of cake flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So let me put this in here. And cake flour is just milled very finely. It's even more fine than just regular flour, and certainly way more fine than bread flour. Right, so then we want to just stir this in. Okay. Got all that beaten in, and you can see it's come back together creamy now. It's got all the little waves in it, and so it's not separated anymore. So it's good. Now it calls for, set that right there. It calls for the zest of 2 lemons, which is what I have here. Now I always stir that in with a spoon or a spatula at the end because it's been my experience that lemon zest will always cling to your beaters, and then it'll end up not in your cake. So just want to stir that in with your spatula right there, and then we'll make sure that it gets all in our cake and it's not on our beaters. Okay. And I'll clean my spatula off just in a second. I'm gonna show you our pan. I'm using a 9 by 13 pan, and I used my butter wrapper for the butter that we put in the cake. I used the butter wrapper to butter it, and then I just took about a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of flour, and I stand over the sink and just shake it around and coat it really well. Now you'll serve from this pan, so it's not as critical as if you were making a layer cake, but I like doing this because it makes a better crust. And also, I have light colored 9 by 13 pans, but I have dark colored like this one. This is a Calphalon, I think. I think when you're making a cake, it makes a better crust. I find that if you use the light ones, the crust just doesn't develop the way that it should. So I'm gonna pour this into here, and I'm gonna bake it on 350, and I will let you know when I come back in a little bit how long it took to bake in my oven. And I think that's probably gonna be about 35 or 40 minutes, but I'll let you know. And then it also calls for a glaze after it's cool for about 15 minutes. So I'll show you that in a little bit, but I'm gonna get it in the pan and get it baking, and I'll be back. Okay, y'all, our cake is out of the oven, and it took about 40 minutes, I guess. And you can kind of see that cakes, when they get done, they begin to pull away from the side. You'll see like a little gap there between the side of the pan and the cake. And you'll see there's kind of little holes in the cake there. That's from the lemon juice and the buttermilk. It creates little air pockets, which is what makes it rise. But anyway, I'm going to mix up the glaze. The recipe says to let it cool like 15 minutes and then mix up the glaze and pour it over it. And I'll come back just in a second and I'll show you once I get the glaze poured on it what it looks like. Okay, y'all, the cake is out of the oven. It's done now, and I let it cool maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then I glazed it while it was warm. But the glaze is 3 cups of powdered sugar, a couple of tablespoons of lemon juice, and a tablespoon of milk. And you just kind of have to judge. You want it a pourable glaze consistency. If it takes more lemon juice, if you want to make it more lemony, I would probably add more lemon juice. The milk just kind of makes it creamy, but it's just powdered sugar, lemon juice, and milk. And you just pour it over it while it's warm, and that's what it looks like right there. And I use Domino powdered sugar, if you want to know the brand I use, and then we used our Swan's Down cake flour. And this is called Lemon Buttermilk Sheet Cake. And y'all, it smells so good. You can smell the buttermilk in it while it's baking. And while I don't like to drink buttermilk plain, it does really good in baking, like in biscuits and pies and cakes. There's just something about buttermilk in a cake or a pie that just does a great job. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you soon.